What is the difference between revision and proofreading? Revision is when you check the content of your essay to make sure your essay makes sense. Therefore, revision is actively working with the content of your paper to ensure that it is clear, it flows well, it is written appropriately for your audience, and it supports the arguments of your thesis. Proofreading and editing is when you check for grammar errors. So which do you do first, revision or proofreading? Actually, you revise before you edit. In other words, you check for the general content of your paper, make sure that your thesis statement makes sense, make sure that your supporting paragraphs match your thesis statement, and once you realize that your paper flows well, has one central idea, that is revision, then you move on to proofreading and editing. So this video will focus on revision. So how do we revise a paper? Revise first before proofreading. Revise your work primarily for clarity. Does your sentence make sense? Can you make it clearer and more focused by adding a new language or by making a convoluted sentence into a shorter and cleaner one? Or should those two sentences become one? Be sure to make sure your sentence structure has variety. Make sure you don't sound too academic or too pretentious, so you got to watch your tone. Make sure you use third-person case. So the revision process is ongoing. You should continue with revision throughout your paper. So here are more ways to revise your paper. So you got to make sure that you have valid sources. You have to make sure that you understand your sources. Make sure that your discussions are logical and clear. Make sure that you responded correctly to the assignment question. Make sure that you've proven your thesis statement. And make sure that your thesis statement is the last sentence of your first paragraph. And make sure that each paragraph matches your thesis statement. And make sure that you have transitions from one paragraph to the other. So many famous writers have revised their papers so many times. It's a well-known fact that Ernest Hemingway revised his book, Farewell to Arms, 39 times before he was satisfied. So Ernest Hemingway said that he revised things 39 times because he wanted to get the words just right. Susan Sontag said, "I don't write easily or rapidly. My first draft usually has only a few elements worth keeping. I have to find what those are and build upon them and throw out what doesn't work or what simply is not alive." Truman Capote said that, "I'm all for the scissors. I believe more in the scissors than I do in the pencil." So he would cut out whatever didn't work in his draft. And so the APUS library is a great source, and it has a lot of also valuable advice on revision. So here it says revision requires critical thinking. The usefulness of critical thinking has already been referred to in this book. Even if you are aware that your paper is not perfectly perfect, you can still revise it to make sure that your overall ideas make sense. Here is a checklist of what you should revise for. Does my introduction state my thesis? Does each of the body paragraph contain a topic sentence that directly supports my thesis? Do I provide a conclusion that reminds readers of my main point? Do transitions help readers move from one idea to the next? Have I integrated source material smoothly into the essay? Have I reread the essay carefully, looking for errors? Have I cited and documented my sources? Does my essay have one central idea? Do my supporting paragraphs support the central idea? Do my body paragraphs justify the thesis statement? Make sure you have answered every question on this checklist as you revise your essay to make sure you have proper essay structure and that all of your paragraphs are of the proper length, 5 to 7 sentences. Make sure you have one direct quote in each sentence, each paragraph, and make sure each paragraph has at least one in-text citation. Remember, even if you just summarize your paper from the source, you still need to cite the source. It is important that your essay is coherent and unified as a whole. Use transition words for better coherence between sentences and between paragraphs. Coherence in writing means that all the support connects to form a whole. In other words, even if your essay is in logical order, you still need to make sure that your essay is not choppy. Transition words are the glue that holds your essay together and makes it whole and coherent. So if you don't know what transition words are, you can go Google transition words and get yourself a transition word list. And so you got to make sure that your paper has an introduction, body, and a conclusion. So that ends my video on how to revise a paper.